Hey all, today I thought I'd make a video on how to diagnose the factory Nissan vacuum locker that you'll find in 2012 to 2016 model GUs, and I will also be pulling it apart and replacing it with a e-locker as I've damaged my factory locker. So this is just a video on how to diagnose it on the track, just to get you out of trouble, and yeah, hope you enjoy the video. So as you can see, I hope the video is clear enough. I've already pre-labelled the vacuum lines in which operation. So the top one will be pulling constant vacuum when the engine is running to keep the locking mechanism disengaged, and then when you hit the switch on the dash, it'll remove vacuum from that line and put vacuum on the on, which will then drive the gear or the fork on the inside of the diff to engage the locker. So I'll turn the car on now and show you how all that works. So at the moment the car is running, so there will be 12 volt DC to these top two pins, which will then pull in this top actuator, which will then give vacuum to this line. So if I pull that off, there's no vacuum there, and we've got vacuum there. If I now go into the car, hit the locker switch to on, you'll see the diff lock light is flashing. So now there is no vacuum there anymore. And now we'll have vacuum on this bottom one, indicating that there is vacuum to the on side of the actuator. So there is now vacuum on this on bottom line. So now if we go to the back of the car, welcome to the back diff. So I've also pre-labelled this. So this top one is on. So I'll have vacuum. I'll have vacuum to there as the blocker is on. And then when I turn the vacuum switch off, I'll have vacuum, constant vacuum on this line here, which goes to the front space of the actuator. So I'll just go turn that off now. We'll flick that switch to the off position. No more light on the dash. If I pull off this line here, I now have vacuum there. Get my poo ticket paper, show that I have vacuum. Right, so that's how that works. Now this is a signal indicator of where the fork is at inside the diff. When it is at the engaged position, it will then close circuit and send a signal back to the locker control module, which will then put a light on the dash saying that it is locked. So that's how to diagnose the vacuum side of the locker. So you've got constant vacuum went off and vacuum went on, it swaps over. Now that's the first thing to test if it's not working. Second thing would be is if you've got no voltage. So that's how to diagnose the vacuum side of the locker. So you've got constant vacuum went off and vacuum went on, it swaps over. Now that's the first thing to test if it's not working. Second thing would be is if you've got no voltage. So the best way to do that is just to remove this plug. Get a multimeter of some description. Sit that up here. Now the vacuum locker is in the off position, so that'll be the top two. So I've got 14 volts there now. If I go switch it over, now switched it to on. It'll be the bottom one now, and there'll be no voltage on the top one. So I hope that's clear. So now what I'm going to do is, because my lock is actually stuffed, I'll take it for a walk. I'm going to start by removing the tyres to remove the axles out. I'll be draining the diff, oil, and removing the pumpkin. What I've decided to go with, I've purchased the Harrop E-Locker model A13583, and I'll be installing that, going through the book step by step. I've also printed off online some specifications on the backlash and the bearing preload, and I'll try my best to put a link for those specifications. So I will pause this, get stuck into pulling that apart, and I will resume the video when it's all apart. Well, there you go. I just removed the center. Bit of a hot tip for, I've never done this before by the way, the rear sway bar got in the way a little bit, so had to just get a bit of a pry bar and just move that up just so I could get the whole diff center out. Anyway, so going back to the diagnostics, just so you understand how this works. So this is your drive fork. So in the closed position, which is now, is out, and then when you engage the locker, it will slide in. Only a couple of mil, so I'll show you that's how that works. I'll show you the diff. So this is the diff center, and this is your locking gear. So your fork slides over that, and it slides and locks into place. So let's see what can I get that to. There we go, just like that. So that's locked, unlocked, locked, unlocked, locked. So that's how that works. Alright, let's get this on the bench and pull it apart. Righto, so back I rigged up just using some steel I had lying around, bit of a brace just to hold the diff suspended so I can work on it freely. I'm just checking the backlash before I remove the crown wheel and make sure that it goes back the way it was when I put it back together. So the manufacturer's specifications for a Patrol, this is the book the diff lock came with. On page 52 you've got a backlash of 0.15 to 0.2 mil. So we'll double check this. So this is the locking gear here. That's out, in, so unlocked, locked, and then you can see the gears in there that it locks into place. So when you engage it when you're on the track, you might be, say, there, and it might be trying to force its way locked. That's why you've got to rock backwards and forwards to find that tooth before it locks in, and then that locks it in. But this is just an example of how, you know, in my opinion, isn't very good of Nissan. You've got, that's in its fully locked position. It's not really grabbing onto the teeth much there. Like, I know I've done some damage, but you know, that side that side's good. It's not getting a lot of there's not a lot of contact there. It's still on a bit of a, a bit of a chamfer, and it's not getting a lot of contact, and that's hard up against the housing. So yeah, anyway, that's how your factory locker works. Alright, so now I've measured backlash. I'll get some gear paint and measure the contact between the crown wheel and the pinion. And I've also already marked the bearing caps, so I know they go back on exactly where I've taken them off. So I'll get some gear paint and mark that up. Right, so what I got myself here is some bearing blue and a fine toothbrush. And I'll mark some gears so we can get a good contact pattern. So I'll do 4 gears back and front. Right, so that's 4 gears back and front. I'll just do this one here, I've got a bit of paint. And then we'll spin around to the other side. And we'll see what the contact pattern's like. So as you can see here, I've got a little bit of, I think that's heel. I've got very much heel, so when we put this back together I'll change that and we'll get it so it's a little bit more toe. What's the other side like? So the other side is probably a bit more in the centre where we'd want it. So we'll just check this other side. Yeah. Right. Apply some pressure. Now we've got a bit more. Definitely good on this side, and that side's probably a little bit toey. We'll see if we can adjust that out when we put it back together. Right, time to start pulling it apart. undo them. Right, so I've just transferred the centre over to the vise. Now I'll remove the ring gear. Right, let's try this again.
Good day. Do you know
just like that. I'll move that over to there. Done. Ring gear is out. And there's the old centre, the old vacuum locked centre. That one can go on the shelf. So, to put this on the new locker, to put the ring gear on the new locker, I'll go sit it in the oven for half an hour on 90 degrees, and that way it should just slip on nicely. So I will pause it and come back for that. Right, so I did forget to mention, sorry, when I picked up the locker, I had the machine shop press on the bearings. So the bearings that I had to get, there goes my vice bracket. So the bearings that are on the Harrop E-Locker are different to what's on the factory centre. The factory centre with the vacuum locker, they're different. So you need to buy the bearing kit TT-EL10, and that comes with 2 bearings, and when we go to put the diff back together, comes with a new gasket, which I'll be using when we put it back together. So I had them previously pressed on because I don't have a press here. So the crown wheel is now sitting on the new locker assembly nicely, and I'll proceed to put these bolts back in to then get ready to torque it down to spec. Right, so we've got two in place now to flip it over. Then we can put the rest in and torque them to spec. Then pull them out, put some Loctite on them. So I'm using Permatex, which is the Loctite equivalent from Super Cheap Auto. So the manual recommends to use Loctite 262, where this is thread lock Permatex 26210. So same thing, different packaging. We'll move this over to the vise. Right, so we got the crown wheel onto the E-locker assembly with two bolts that do not have Loctite on them yet. So now using Loctite 626, I'll start putting in all the other bolts. Torque wrench is set to 142 Newton meters as per the spec in the Harrop E-Locker manual. Mark each bolt as you go along with a bit of white mark paint so you know which one you've done. Right, now that they're all torqued to spec, it's time to put the new housing into the centre. Right, so what I've done here is I sat the new housing into, the new centre into the housing, and I marked out where the cable is going to come through the housing. So I've just marked that with my white texture paint marker, and I'll now take it out of the jig and drill it upside down just so I don't get any burrs and crap in the bearing for the pin. So I've just stuffed that with rags just so I don't get anything in there, and I'll put this onto the bench. So you can see here where I've marked with the paint, and so I'll just drill out where I need to drill, where the cable needs to come out. Okay, so I've marked the hole, double checked it. I'm going to be using some Venom cutting spray just to aid with the cutting. And I'm started with a 4mm drill bit, and then we'll step up to the 11.5 recommended in the manual. Okay, that looks like it's all good. I'll put it back onto the stand. Over the top. Now this is the retainer plate for the magnetic bearing, so the magnetic ring for the locker. Should just take special note in the installation manual on how that is installed. think I did that a bit wrong. Right, now everything's loosely in place. I'll get everything set up and get the backlash and bearing preload set up. Okay, so what I've done here is I've put the bearing caps on just loosely, just so we can adjust the side nuts and the preload. Put the locking ring in for the magnetic ring. Now to set preload, from what I've gathered reading online and watching videos, you tighten the back side of the crown wheel. You tighten that right up until you have no backlash whatsoever, until this does not rock or move. Then you tighten in this side, the flange side, no, that's flange side, sorry. You tighten this side in until you see the race ring move. Then you back both off 2 notches and then start working out your backlash. Now, to work out backlash, you want to obviously move the crown away from the pinion. So when there's no backlash, it means it's too tight into those grooves. So you want to move it away. So you back this off, say you start with 2 turns, back it off 2 turns, tighten that up 2 turns, and you keep doing it that way. So for every turn you do on this side, you do the opposite on this side. So tightening that, loosen that. So and so on. So now I have got this set up pretty bang on. So I'll get that to 0. And then you can see I'll rock that. It's very tricky to keep that dial indicator right. So now that is bang on 0.15, which is well within specifications in the manufacturer's book here. So we've got here, once again, this is the diff lock installation manual. Towards the back of the book, page 52, you've got all the specifications. So we want to get our backlash, we want it to be 0.15 to 0.2 mil. So going back to the dial indicator, we'll rock it again. There we go. We're bang on 0.15. So now that I've got that there, I will mark that tooth. Actually, I've already marked some tooth, so I've already marked some around here. So what I'll do is I'll just move it to various teeth around the crown. Make sure I've still got 0.15. Then I'll torque down the bearing caps to spec, which is also on here. Bearing cap torque is 99 Newton meters. So I'll torque them down and then check backlash again. So I'll get going on that. Okay, so what I've done here is I've put the bearing caps on just loosely, just so we can adjust the side nuts and the preload. Put the locking ring in for the magnetic ring. Now to set preload, from what I've gathered reading online and watching videos, you tighten the back side of the crown wheel. You tighten that right up until you have no backlash whatsoever, until this does not rock or move. Then you tighten in this side, the flange side, no, that's flange side, sorry. You tighten this side in until you see the race ring move. Then you back both off 2 notches and then start working out your backlash. Now, to work out backlash, you want to obviously move the crown away from the pinion. So when there's no backlash, it means it's too tight into those grooves. So you want to move it away. So you back this off, say you start with 2 turns, back it off 2 turns, tighten that up 2 turns, and you keep doing it that way. So for every turn you do on this side, you do the opposite on this side. So tightening that, loosen that. So and so on. So now I have got this set up pretty bang on. So I'll get that to 0, and then you can see I'll rock that. It's very tricky to keep that dial indicator right. So now that is bang on 0.15, which is well within specifications in the manufacturer's book here. So we've got here, once again, this is the diff lock installation manual. Towards the back of the book, page 52, you've got all the specifications. So we want to get our backlash, we want it to be 0.15 to 0.2 mil. So going back to the dial indicator, we'll rock it again. There we go. We're bang on 0.15. So now that I've got that there, I will mark that tooth. Actually, I've already marked some tooth, so I've already marked some around here. So what I'll do is I'll just move it to various teeth around the crown. Make sure I've still got 0.15. Then I'll torque down the bearing caps to spec, which is also on here. Bearing cap torque is 99 Newton meters. So I'll torque them down and then check backlash again. So I'll get going on that. Bang on. Alright, that's bang on. So now we'll get some Loctite on those and torque it down to spec. We'll mark these bolts. Right, check this again. Right, so as you can see, we've got a bit of a change here, now that we've torqued that down. You always got to make sure there's constant pressure on the needle, so that way you know that it's not lifting off when you are pulling the crown wheel away and back. So I'll do a slight adjustment here. Just did one, loosened one side by one and tightening this up by another by one. And we'll see what change that makes. And then we go, we're back on. Okay, we'll check it in a couple other spots. Right, I want to tighten that back up now. See, I've gone around the other side and now that's... So we want to tighten that, so we want to loosen this one. Tighten this one. Okay, that one looks good. We'll go back to where we were before. We'll do a full rotation, just get things bedded in a bit. That's good. Perfect. I'm happy with that. Now what I'll do is I'll check the contact. Now got a nice even coating over some 4 teeth, both sides. We'll add some pressure. Okay, so we've got a lot of heel contact there. We'll go back around this way. So we need to bring that in a little. Let's get some more in here. Okay, I'll just repaint these and we'll get another reading, and I'll tighten up this side to bring the crown ever so slightly away from the pinion, and see if this changes our contact. And we'll also have to double check backlash again. Much better. So now you can see now I have contact in the middle of the tooth, which is very good, and on the back side as well. Okay, I'll check it in another spot, and yeah, I reckon we're good to go. Righto, so all back together. As you can see, diffs in, new locker, new E-locker is in. Now the wiring, what I've done is I removed the factory vacuum solenoid, and I utilised the 12 volt switching for that solenoid. So when you switch the switch on the dash to on, it now energizes this relay, which is the relay that comes with your E-locker. Then what I've done is I have run from when you energize that locker, I've then teed into that power, so the power that goes to the locker itself, I've then teed to another relay, and then what this relay does is just switch the signal to tell the locker the locker ECU, or whatever you want to call it, switches that to tell the dash that it's engaged, will tell the computer that it's engaged, so therefore it turns off ABS and your traction control, so you're not going to damage the locker. So how I did that was, like I said, when you energize that relay, it then energizes another relay, which then all it does is I've just run one more cable to the back of the car, and then the other side of the relay goes to ground, and then I've run that cable down. I don't know if you can see it. I've just run it along this wiring loom here under the chassis. Then, where's my light? We'll go on up. Oh, hope you can see, sorry. So then come across this upper control arm, and then around, then wrapped it around, and then plugged it into the plug that comes out of the top of the diff. Now the signal sensor, whatever you want to call it, that just goes to there, and then the extra cable, I don't know if you can see it, so the cable that's in that is yellow. I've just joined it in there and then earthed the other piece. So you've got two cables in the original wire, earthed one side here and then earthed the other side via the relay, that second relay. So when you turn the locker on, it closes the contact, and then you get the engaged light on the dash. I will show you that in a minute. So here's another little thing I did. I just got a 4mm bung steel plate, 4mm steel plate, cut into a 40mm hole, and then welded up the old holes, so that all looks neat. I'll show you on the dash once I get out of here. Righto, so in the car now, we'll just give this a start. Okay, car's all started. Don't know if you can see there. So now that the locker's off, I'll now switch the locker on, and you'll see the lights come up on the dash. So diff lock, ABS is off, traction control is off. And then when you turn it off, it disengages. So that's the benefit of wiring it up through the factory controller. Turns off all the traction control and ABS. So if the ABS decides to kick in and break one wheel, it doesn't damage your axle or your lockers. So, and obviously then you're utilising the factory switch. So anyway, like I said, cable runs around there, joins into the old factory signal switch, and then continues on and then plugs in to the wire that comes out of the top of the diff. Good hot tip is remove the sway bar. It's a couple of bolts, because it's a pain to get the diff center in while the sway bar's there, just because it takes over this top corner here. Other than that, if you got any questions, put them in the comments and I'll try my best to get to them, and hopefully I haven't missed anything. And yeah, I hope this is helpful to some people that are doing a similar mod or diagnosing their factory locker themselves. So yeah, I hope you all enjoy. Cheers. Bye. Righto, so all back together, as you can see.